Hello and welcome back to Crafted by Corie. If you're new, I'm Corie. Welcome to my channel. If you are returning, thank you as always for being here. I am super excited today. We are going to be using Dollar Tree calendars for a whole bunch of different projects. So let's go ahead and get right on into the crafting.
DIY number one. Okay, I have a few Dollar Tree calendars and I've selected some image options here, trying to decide which one I want. I really like the farm fresh pumpkins, so I'm thinking I'm going to go with that. Just tore it right out of the calendar. And now I am going to grab one of these Dollar Tree signs and I'm going to be using the back of the sign. So I'm just going to pop out the little hanger and we're going to get to work on this. So one thing I love about these square signs that they usually have out this time of year is that they fit the calendar pages almost perfectly. I had started to go for my wood glue and then I opted for this spray glue that I think I also had picked up at the Dollar Tree. It's a purple spray that goes on purple and it dries clear, and it must have been clogged because I was making a big ol' mess out of the whole thing. And I know I've used it before and I didn't have this issue with it, so I think I just had a clogged little nozzle there. But I cleaned it up a little bit. I didn't want it to be too wet because I didn't want this to be wrinkly, but I wasn't so successful in that. Somehow I managed to get all kinds of bubbles, and then I was trying to lift it up again to see if maybe I could fix that, and I couldn't, so I tried to glue it down some more, and yeah, I just was not happy with the way that this was laying down, and I was so sad because I loved this image. Of course, then I tried spraying it with water because I'm like, well, maybe that'll help. Again, no, that just made it worse. Made it worse. So I think I probably needed to spray it water before I laid it down. So I'm still messing with it. I was trying to lift it to see if I could pull it up, trying to squeegee it down, yet nothing was working. I finally decided I was going to try to salvage it. Very carefully was trying to lift it up, taking my time. I used a knife under here, finally got it off with, minor damage to it, but still, yeah, it wasn't going to be working for this project. So I cleaned this up, pretty well, and then grabbed my Mod Podge. And I think I have seen my friend Deirdre from our Upcycled Life Mod Podge something, let it dry, and then iron on the item. I think I've seen her do that. I could be completely making that up. But at any rate, I picked out another image and that was what I was going to try. But of course I was doing the lazy way and I set it down. It was almost completely dry. It had a little bit of stick left to it. I'm like, let me heat it up, and just press it on that way. So, and you know what? Actually, it worked. If I tried hard, I could lift the edges, but it worked and it wasn't wrinkly. So I'm like, all right. And now I'm trying to decide what to do with that hole. You can see I grabbed my plaster chalk paint to stress the whole image. So, and not really to stress, but just add a little bit of dimension. So you can see there's already some kind of lines through this with the faux shiplap background. And I was like, you know what, I'm just going to add some highlights. And that was going to be my way to kind of camouflage the hole at the top. So now I've got this mesh tubing. I don't know what this is called. This is also from the Dollar Tree. I had picked it up either last year or the year before. I honestly can't recall, but I decided I was going to use this for my border. Now you could use twine, right, or jute cord, but I decided I was going to kind of trim this off first. So you can see there's very little, I can't talk, very little overlap, or whatever you want to call that, on the edge. If you don't have an X-Acto knife, you could also use a sanding block for that. So then I'm going to just go ahead and lay down my hot glue with my whatever this tubing stuff is called. And I had done this because I didn't want to do another wood frame. I was kind of, tired of doing the wood frames. You certainly can do the wood frames, But in this instance, I decided I wanted something different. So this is what I opted for, and I just made sure I got it all the way around. And just a quick note, make sure you stay until the end because I am announcing the winners of the rub-on transfers from last week's video. But I just went ahead and continued this all the way around. And once I had it on all four sides, I was able to just go ahead and cut off that excess. And it actually blended at that start and end point really pretty well. Maybe because it's like fluffy or something. I don't really know. DIY number 2. All right, so our next project, I am going to be using Dollar Tree calendars, this jute twine that I'd gotten at Dollar Tree. I've got 4 of these shower curtain ring hook things. And I had also shown you my Jenga blocks, also from the Dollar Tree. I'm going to start out by tying one of these onto one of the little nubs that normally goes together on the shower curtain ring. I do have it open, and I'm going to use that opening to my advantage in just a second, but I'm going to add some hot glue here so it doesn't twist around on me. And once I've got that settled, I'm just going to start wrapping, and I'm making it look harder than it is right here, guys, because it took me a minute to figure out the best way to do this. But I'm just going to wrap and wrap and wrap around each of these rings. When I get to the end, I'm going to go ahead and close that before I wrap that part. And then once I have it closed, I'm going to use a little bit of hot glue to keep it together. And then I'm going to wrap, I'm trying to put it together there. And then I'm going to trim off my jute cord, and I'm going to wrap right over the hot glue and make sure that that is all covered up. And I'm going to be doing the same exact thing with all 4 of my little rings. I'm just using a little hot glue to get that nailed down, and we'll be all set with those. So in the meantime, I'm going to grab my Jenga blocks, and I was wishing I had done this first, and to be honest, I did it after the second ring. I was like, you know what, I should do those first and then go back to the rings, because I want to make sure they can dry for me to continue to use them. So I'm cutting out one of the back images on the Dollar Tree calendar, on one of the calendars. I'm going to cut this real close as I can to the image, so that I can make sure that it's going to fit onto the Jenga blocks. So it's going to be 3 Jenga blocks wide. I'm going to be using my Gorilla wood glue, and it just needs a little bit. Wood glue gives a really fantastic bond when used on wood. So making sure that it's all lined up, that there's nothing scooching out, because I don't want any little, I was going to say blubs. I don't know what the word is for glue that is oozing out, but I don't want it to be bumpy. I want it to be nice and smooth, so just making sure that none of that is oozing, and that everything's lined up. Just double checking that it's going to fit my little image, and I'm going to use the same wood glue to apply these. I'm using a very, very thin coat of the glue, not much at all, but I am making sure that the glue is going to every single edge so that I don't have any lifting. And then I'll go back and I'll cut another one, and again, just cutting really close to the edge. You could certainly use a paper cutter for this. I just opted to do it by hand because it's so small. And I'm gonna do the same exact thing again, and I'll do that for all 4 of them. Cutting out my last 2 images. I ended up using 3 different calendars, so you could totally mix and match these if you have different calendars. I liked the fall theme, so that was what I was using from each of these calendars. But if you just want them all to be the calendar theme, so if you have a farmer market calendar and you want to use all of those, you can do that as well. So now I'm just going to trim off the excess on these and make sure that I don't have anything overhanging there. Now, so in order for me to not have to stand there and hold this the entire time, I'm going to use some hot glue, and I'm kind of letting it flow over either side here so that it will adhere to the wood. And it's really just for a temporary bond. I know that hot glue doesn't always work real well with wood unless you're using a wood glue hot glue. which I've learned does exist. I actually have some in my stash. I haven't tried it yet. So just wanted to make sure that I have that nice and secure so I can continue on and it's not going to flop over on me essentially. And I'm going to do that with all 4 of the rings as well, just going right over it. And then I'm just kind of using the back of my nail to kind of smoosh it down to make sure that it's adhered to the wood. And I had it on the low setting, you guys, so it was really easy not to burn myself. All right, so here they are all done, and I'm just going to show you, I'm using a little tea towel from my stash to kind of show you how they can be used as napkin rings. I think these are so sweet. You could also use them for magnets. I have done that before, inspired by my friend Sammy from Unicorn Dust Designs. But let me know what you think of these, because I think they are fantastic. DIY number 3. All right, here we are. This is an oldie but goodie. I've had this calendar for I think 2 years now, and I am going to be grabbing out a wood round. This is from the wood pile, which is from the Hobby Lobby. There are 6 of these in here, and I think it was $7.99 for the pack, so not too bad. I mean, they're not super thick wood rounds, but they get the job done. So I had traced it out on my design once I had it all lined up and centered, cut that out, and now I'm going to go ahead and apply this to the wood round. I'm starting to get a little bit smarter with how I apply these. This time, instead of putting my Mod Podge on the item to which I'm going to be adhering the paper, I am painting the paper, and amazing what a difference this made. I was blown away. So I went ahead and did that, but I'm being real careful because I learned on another project that once you put it down and start, pressing it, it's not coming up again. So I wanted to make sure that I had it all nice and where I wanted it before I started squeegeeing it here. So you see me kind of lifting and then squeegeeing. Now once it's squeegeed, it's not coming up. So yeah, but this worked really well. So I am definitely a fan of this method. If you are using Mod Podge with any sort of a paper, yeah, I would definitely paint the back of the paper and then apply it. So here I'm using an old sanding block and just adding some newer, you can see it's not new, but newer sandpaper to it because my block is pretty much dead. But we can use the block to facilitate, right? So just rubbing off the edge of that, you can see there's very little. And now I am bringing in some faux leaves from the Dollar Tree. I'm just trying to figure out where I want to put these. I also have, it's kind of off camera there on the left, one of my Kirkland ribbons. I recently did a haul video on all of the Costco ribbon. If you don't have a Costco near you, if you have a Sam's or a BJ's, I understand that they also have versions of ribbon around this time of year, but I am such a fan of the Kirkland ribbon because it is 50 yards of ribbon for $8.49, and it is the best quality, and they have really pretty patterns and options. So huge fan. Costco doesn't know who I am. I just love their ribbon. So it's an honest opinion, and I use it all the time. But this is the ribbon that I have selected for this project. You can see it's kind of coppery toned with metallic leaves throughout, and I did 2 loops on either side. So I basically just made a couple of loops around itself. I'm just making sure everything is all lined up here, finding center. But then I'm going to cut off another piece of ribbon and I'm going to tie this around the middle. Now, when I do this, you're going to see it's going to get really wonky for a second, and that's okay. We're just going to go ahead and keep working with it because we can always fluff it up later. I'm just making sure it's centered, and then I'm going to go ahead and tie it off, and I am going to then manipulate it. So once we have it nice and tight and we have our bow, we can work with it, right? This is wired ribbon, and so it's going to go easy on us. All right, so you can see I knocked all my leaves off to the side. That's okay, because I'm gonna go ahead and secure my bow, and I used hot glue. Sorry, I was off camera again for that, but used hot glue right in the middle of my knot, and then I'm gonna go ahead and dovetail my ends. You basically just fold the ribbon in half and cut it at an angle. And then I'm going to come in just a second with all of the leaves underneath the bow. So I'm just kind of figuring out where I'm going to start them again. And I'm going to start with the top one because I want to make sure that I'm laying down the other leaves on top of the stems and hiding those stems. So, and I'm just applying a little bit of hot glue to the stem itself, so the rest of the leaf is kind of flowing free. Now, if you have something that is sticking out and you're not really caring for the way that it's looking, you can certainly use a little teeny bit of hot glue to get that nailed down. So certainly can do that, but for right now, I am just applying it to the stems, and this actually worked out really well for me, and I knew that the ribbon was going to cover up the last few little leaves there. So got all of those arranged. I was so pleased with how this was coming out. So got all of that situated. And then once I have that done, I'm going to try and figure out how I want to do the hanger. So I grabbed another piece of ribbon. I felt like the top needed something, right? The bottom is so ornate, and then the top was like, wah, wah. So I'm trying to figure out how to do the hanger. And ultimately, I decided I was just going to do a straight loop on top. Now, obviously, it doesn't hang properly when you've got it the way that I've got it right now. But I needed it to look like that, or in my mind it needed to look like that. And then I'm going to add a little piece of twine here. So I am cutting down a hanger that I'd pulled off of another project. It's just twine, and I am tying it in a knot to kind of loop it, trimming that off. And I'm just going to apply this to the back of the ribbon, and I'm only applying it, I'm making sure that ribbon stays like fluffy. So I'm only making sure that the glue is on the back side of the ribbon. Hopefully that makes sense. But let me know what you think. Now it's time for a shout out timeout. So sweet, Janet. These are a bunch of summer projects she just recently sent my way. I love them. And very nice, Valerie. I am so excited for fall, you guys. Great job. And cute Kathy, my two favorite things, pumpkins and snowmen. Yes. If you would like to give me a shout out. No, if you would like me to give you a shout out, just send me an email at craftedbycorie@gmail.com. DIY number 4. All right, this is one of the newer calendars from the Dollar Tree that just out in recent weeks, and I am grabbing out the Thankful, Grateful, and Blessed. This is also a glass plate from the Dollar Tree, and I am going to create a pattern here with a piece of parchment paper because I just want to make sure I have that center piece to set down in the middle of my plate. So I'm grabbing out my pencil and I am tracing around my little pattern, and then I'll go ahead and cut that out as well. And if it's not completely 100% perfect, no worries, because we'll be covering up the edge later. But right now I'm getting out my alcohol inks. Now I had tried this a little while back, not on a plate, but on a glass frame, and I like the way it came out, but it was different than what I had anticipated or what I was trying to do. So we'll see if my image for what I'm doing here is going to work. I'm rubbing it down with 90% isopropyl alcohol. I think I said that right. And I have just selected a bunch of colors that I thought looked like they could turn into a fall-ish background. Hopefully that makes sense. So I've got a couple of different tones of orange. I have actually a purple. The one I'm putting down right now is a brown. So I've got the brown, I've got the purple, I do have a yellow and a green. And I am just kind of staggering them around the plate, letting them drip down. So I'm starting kind of towards the, as you can see, the top edge of the plate, and then just letting them drip. Yeah. There's not really any other way I could think of to do this because of the angle of the plate rim. Hopefully that makes sense. But I'm just going to continue to go around and layer on the rubbing alcohols. Oh my goodness. The alcohol paints. And I was having a lot of fun working with this. I love the way that they kind of meld together or push each other out of the way. And I don't know, I just thought it was really fun. And in a second, I actually have a pack of metallic alcohol inks that I'm going to grab out here as well. So now I'm using a copper alcohol ink, so it's a metallic one, and then I also have a gold one that I'm going to come in with in just a second. I just figured it would give it a little bit more dimension and maybe not look as flat. Ooh, I got a little too much there of the gold, so I'm wiping that up a little bit and just adding it in here and there, just making sure that I am pretty much covered around the rim of the plate. So once I had that done, I guess I came back in with a couple of other little colors here. So yeah, I'm just layering it on until it makes my eyes happy, right? Do what makes your heart happy, what looks nice to your eyes, and that's all you got to do with crafting, right? So now I'm flipping it over. This is after it was dry. I flipped it over, and I'm going to be using my plaster chalk paint on the back of the plate. Now, the reason I am doing this is that the alcohol inks need a background generally to pop. I suppose you could leave it as is if you like that translucent look. I wanted mine to be a little bit bolder, so I opted to paint it. I also went with the plaster instead of the bright white just because I felt like it was fall and it needed just a little bit more of a muted tone. All right, so I am back with my Mod Podge, painting the back side of my calendar page to apply it here. I've got a little piece of parchment there, my pattern that I'm using to not put Mod Podge all over my desktop. But I'm getting this all set and ready to apply to my plate. And I'm not sure why I felt the need to show you every little bit of my Mod Podging, but I am a fan of this method. I'll just say that again. And again, if you didn't hear me before, make sure you listen to the end because I am going to be announcing the winners from the Dollar Tree rub-ons. These are the wine glass rub-ons that I used for other things in my last video. But I am going to go ahead and apply the thankful, grateful, and blessed to the middle of my plate, making sure that's nice and smooth and that it's not coming up. And then I did go over the whole thing with a coat of Mod Podge. Now, I probably needed to let the rubbing alcohol, here I go again. I probably needed to let it cure a little bit longer with the alcohol inks because it did a little bit come up with my paintbrush with the Mod Podge. So just be aware of that. You might want to make sure it dries for maybe an hour before you go in with that. So now I'm going to apply some jute cord. I completely forgot about the thought that this is a glass plate. And glass tends to be a little bit cooler, and I have my glue gun on the low setting, and yeah, I was working quickly, but it was too cool to grab my jute cord by the time I had laid it down. So if you're working with glass, you might want to work in little sections, or you could do what I'm doing and use your heat gun to reactivate the hot glue. So, oh goodness, you guys, find a way or make a way, right? But I got it all the way around the plate, trimmed it off as you saw, and now I am creating a finger bow. So I just wrapped it around my fingers maybe 8 times. I'm guessing at the number, but just a bunch of times. So I had a nice hearty bow, and then I'm tying another length around the middle of it. I think it was another length. I might have just continued with the same length. I can't remember. I'm actually recording this early in the morning and I haven't had my coffee yet, so forgive me. But I'm gonna go ahead and glue this down and get it where I want. I'm covering up that seam. That was why I started where I started. So when you start putting down your trim for something like this, keep in mind what you want the end product to look like. And if you're adding a bow, that's where you want to start with your trim, right? Because you can easily cover up your starting and end point with your bow. And then I just use a little teeny bit of glue to put that tail where I wanted it. All right, here are the winners for the rub-on transfers, the wine glass designs. Congratulations, Barbara Kemp. You are the first winner. Lonnie Billiou, Hope I'm saying the names right. Judy, oh goodness, I am so sorry, I can't say this name. And the Chic Show, congratulations. To claim your prize, just send me an email by September 4th, 2022. All right, DIY number 5. Back to this image because I do love it. I absolutely love this picture, and I wanted to try to salvage some of it for another project. And so I've got this Dollar Tree sign. This is a metal sign. The words are escaping me, you guys. I want to say corrugated. I know that's not corrugated because that's what boxes are, but corrugated cardboard. What is that? I know the word. I know the word, and I know a lot of you are going to put it in the comments for me, and I will remember by the time I'm done recording this, most likely. But at any rate, I used it to, it's going to drive me crazy now, to trace out the shape. I did then just trim down my shape a little bit so that I would have some of the metal showing. I cut out the Farm Fresh piece, going back to Mod Podge everything on, getting it lined up, and I am going to go ahead and lay it all down. I'm going to go over the entire thing with another coat of Mod Podge just to seal it. And because I don't know, with this particular piece, because I had tried to work with it earlier, I don't know, I just felt like it needed that extra help. So using the Mod Podge on the back of the Farm Fresh and then laying that down as well. And I'm gonna Mod Podge over that one too. The Farm Fresh had a little bit more wrinkles going on with it, but the pumpkins went down really nicely. I was very happy with how that turned out. So I'm just poking through the little holes in my little metal sign. That word is driving me crazy, y'all. It's gonna come to me. I know it will. I know what it is, but yeah. I need coffee. Gonna pop the same hanger that came with the metal piece right back through, and we're almost done here. I just wanted to put a little teeny bow at the top. This is a strand from one of the Dollar Tree hula skirts. So using this as raffia, I think it is raffia, but I don't know. Let me know if you know if it's actually raffia. I think it is. So this time I am using the raffia to wrap around. That's what it was. So on my twine piece, the bow on the last project, I did use a separate piece of twine. This time I didn't use a separate piece. I just wrapped it around and then tied it off. And you just want to be careful not to pull on it too hard because it will break. So I've got my little finger bow again, and I'm just going to hot glue it to the top. And that is it for this one. Just going to fluff up my bow and we are all set. So let me know what you think.
Okay, everybody, that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching. Please be sure to leave me a big thumbs up. Leave me a comment because it really does help my channel to grow. And please know how much I truly appreciate every single one of you. Until the next time, be well, be kind, and make it a great day. Thank you so much for watching. Take good care. Bye.